For day 26, the prompt is shells. I've drawn a lot of different kinds of seashells, and I was trying to think of something a little bit different that I could draw that had to do with shells, and I came up with the idea of doing a turtle design, because obviously turtles have a shell. So today, though, rather than just show you how I would doodle a turtle design, I'm going to show you a method you can use to create any doodle design you want. This is especially good if you're lacking confidence in your ability to doodle a design. You can use this method and your doodles will turn out looking great. So I just wanted to show you quickly all of the materials you'll need to do this. You will need your Doodle notebook, of course, and you'll need a printout of an object, whatever object you want to turn into a doodle. So I've got my sea turtle printout. If you have a light box, so my light box is underneath here. I'll turn it on and you can see it. It's kind of behind there. So I'm going to be using that. If you have one, those are really useful. And also, you're going to need one of these things. You don't need all of these things. So you either need a piece of vinyl, and this is the type you can buy by the yard at a quilt shop or fabric store, or if you've got maybe a piece of plexiglass. This is a leftover piece from something that I framed. You could also use the clear page protectors, like the type that you would turn in a term paper with when you were in college. You could use tracing paper. For today, I am going to use this piece of vinyl. To get started, I'm going to trace this turtle onto my vinyl. This vinyl is nice and sticky, so I'm not going to bother taping it in place, but you certainly can do that if you want to. One thing I also forgot to mention when I was going over supplies, you will need a pen, a marker. I recommend a Sharpie. I've tried doing this with micron pens and other types of pens, and the problem I run into is that they don't dry onto the vinyl or the plexiglass. Or if they do, it takes a very long time. So I just recommend a Sharpie, and that's probably something that most of you have on hand anyway. And I'm just going to trace all the lines that I want. I don't really know until I'm done with this exactly which lines I want, which lines I'm going to keep. So I'm just going to trace out what I think I'll want in the end. And you don't have to do this in a continuous line. When you trace this onto your notebook paper, that's when you're going to figure out how to do it in a continuous line. For right now, you just want the basic shape. And I really want the lines of the shell. I know that's going to make it a lot more complicated, but to me that is important, so I'm going to trace those out too. Okay, I started tracing some of the bumps and things on the head, and I know I'm not going to want to get into that level of detail for my doodles, so I decided to go ahead and give up on that. I may want these lines in here. We'll see. Alright, so once you've got this traced onto your clear surface, whatever it is that you have, then you're going to take it to paper and figure out what you think is the best way to do a continuous line doodle with it. Okay, I've got my light box all lit up. I'm going to put down my tracing that's on my vinyl and then put my piece of paper down on top of it. So now it's time to figure out how I want to do this in a continuous line doodle. I'm thinking I'll probably either come to it as I'm quilting it, either from the tail or the nose. So I'm going to start there. And I need to think about what are going to be, easy shapes and easy landmarks for me to make when I don't have a tracing to help me. So I think if I started at the tail, making that kind of turtle body shape, I think actually if I just did the shell itself entirely first, then that would make it easier for me to kind of place the head and the arms. And then I need to kind of just get the basics of what the back legs look like. I stopped doing this in a continuous line, so what I would probably do is trace up here, do the foot, then trace up here. I'd probably come to the top of the arm because I think it's easier to do this larger curve that's on the top. And then while I'm here, just put a head in and then do another flipper over here. So what you want to learn as you're making these is just the basic shapes so that you can repeat them easily. So if it helps you to think about it and compare it to something, you could say this is a little bit of a hooked shape or like a paddle. Alright, so now that I've got the whole outline of the outside done, I do want to have maybe some lines in here for the wrinkly neck. I could have put lines in the arms, but I don't know. I don't think they're really necessary when you're quilting. I'll try it that way another time. For right now, I think I'm just going to do this shell and be done. There also would have been an option to try to add some kind of eyes in there when I was doing the head, but I'm not sure it really needs it. It kind of looks a little strange when you do that. Okay, so now I'm just going to, so now I'm going to come inside here and there's kind of an echo line right here on the inside of the shell, and that line is kind of broken up into sections. So, and obviously you don't have to make this exactly like you're drawing, and it doesn't have to be really realistic. If you're a scientist who knows a lot about turtles, then maybe you know exactly, what the different parts of the shell are and what they're supposed to look like. But again, I need to remember how I'm going to repeat this. So what I observe is there's a row going down the center, and they're kind of similar to like an elongated hexagon. So if I do them in that shape, that works for me. Then maybe there's just one at the bottom that goes out to the tail. And then with these, all I had to do was do a line to the outside of the shell, or back from the outside to the inside. So I don't know how accurate that is to a real sea turtle, but it looks good to me, works for me. I'm going to do this one more time because I want to see if I can kind of remember the path that I already did, the travel path. And I also want to add in the lines on the flippers because to me I think they add something that I want to it. Now that I've practiced it with my outline, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can recreate it without. So I have these here that I've already done to look at to remind me how to do it. I'm going to turn it because when I'm done I want to think of a filler that I can connect all of these sea turtles with. I kind of do like the eye a little bit. I don't know how accurate that is, but I'm going to add it. Okay, so let me see how well I can do. Turtle shell shape kind of comes to a point here. Fin. Almost forgot to do lines in it. Making a mess. That happens. And then I guess I'm going to come over here and do this fin because that's where I went. Okay. Those are a little odd, but I'm okay with it. Okay. Okay. Then I'm going to come in here, just kind of do an outline on the center of that shell and just kind of do my little hexagon shapes. Definitely harder to do when you don't have lines to trace. I did forget to do the eyes. Okay, now I'm going to come out to the outside and do the breaks in the shell. I guess I could call this the rim of the shell. Okay, I don't know, I don't like it as much as these other ones, but I also think it's not too bad, and with some practice I could definitely get better. I forgot to add the eyes. Now that I've got 3 on the page, what I could start thinking about is how I would join these together if I were going to use them as a background fill or in a border or something like that. And I had a couple of thoughts. One is I could use just swirls just to kind of indicate, you know, the movement of the water that they're swimming through. Another thing I could do would be wavy lines with circles. So maybe I will try a combination of both. I'm going to do a swirl. Okay, so that's what I was able to come up with just randomly. If I were taking notes on this, I think I might, I don't know, I might stop and just kind of think about the background pattern a little bit more. I kind of like the swirls and the bubbles, and I'm not so sure about I like the wavy lines and the bubbles. I'm not as sure about the swirls, but that is the kind of thing that I'll just need to think about and refine. And if and when I use this doodle drawing again, it'll get better each time. Alright, so I hope you found that helpful, and that you will, if you have been feeling a little bit intimidated about drawing your own designs, maybe this will help you to feel a little bit braver. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next day of the Doodle School Doodle Challenge. Bye now.